God and the devil will have it out in some future time. Some say it will happen here on earth. Boy, we sure are prime. Cosmic forces fry the cities. Battles rage among the thickets. But Armageddon just can't take place unless Bill Donor sells the tickets.
For me, the most gratifying part of being a promoter was, I guess it's cold. It was going to the bank, you know. I mean, it was putting money in your checking account. I mean, it was not only a business, however, for me, it was a lifestyle, and it involved, much like, you know, it might be Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Donor. I don't know. It was a circus, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And we made sure that the events and the promotion and everything. I mean, when guys came up to run, whether it be the Snake or the Mongoose, Jungle Jim or the Blue Max and the Chi-Town Hustler, we had storylines. We told them. We got the people involved. They came through with the commercials and the things leading up to the event. And those, when they were over, it was magnificent, I would tell you. If it worked out right. There were nights when I can remember at Orange County when we got right down to the Don Perdome, the Snake, racing Raymond Beadle and the Blue Max, and they're out there doing short ups, little chirpies and barking at each other, and I was announcing and everybody on their feet, and my God, I felt like I was, I don't even know, the great right orator. I mean, it was really fun talking to the crowds and getting them all whipped up, and they would, believe me now, they got whipped up.
It's simply got to be the highlight of the entire summer. This Saturday night, the Super Shops present the 11th Annual Nitro Championships at Orange County International Raceway. And if this one doesn't blow you away, nothing will. All in one single day and night, you're going to see the 16 best funny cars in the West. 16 fuel rackers, 3 rocket funny cars, 2 rocket rackers, 4 jets, 3 wheel standers, plus the biggest fireworks show in Orange County history, and then the capper. Bob Correll going for an all-time world motorcycle jumping record, 300 feet, the distance of a football field. Twice as far as he went at the Super Bowl of motocross. The last time he tried it, he crashed. A year in the hospital and on crutches. Saturday night, he comes back to OCIR for the 11th Annual Super Shop Nitro Championships. If he makes it, the Guinness Book of World Records. If he misses, curtains. Correll and a cast of hundreds, the biggest summer racing spectacular in Southern California history. This Saturday night, the 11th Super Shop Nitro Championships at Orange County International Raceway. Save $2 by buying an advance ticket at any Super Shop today. Only $5.95 in advance for adults, $1.95 for kids. This Saturday night, don't miss the unreal Super Shop Nitro Championships, Orange County International Raceway.
I never like to see funny cars burst into flames in the lights, particularly. I've seen that, and it can be pretty scary when that happens. It's exciting, and the people get excited. I'd rather see them do fire burnouts right on the starting line. More people could see them then. And if they're going to fight, I'd rather see them fight right out in front of the crowd, not way down at the finish line. And we've seen all those things, seen them all. I think back in NASCAR in the days when racers, used to beat each other up and stuff, people love seeing that. People still love seeing it. I mean, but it was edgy when it was happening, but at the same time, the show was, was dynamite.
His devotion to humanity. I mean, Billy Lee really cares about people. I mean, what other track operator? I mean, name me one track operator. When a few years back, after Jungle Jim Lieberman did one of his famous burnouts, and Donner was informed by his division director that there was a girl in the staging lanes with her hair on fire, would say, "Man, give her $50, send her down the track."
We had run our 2 runs, and we're trying to find out if we're coming back for a final or what was going on. It was up in the tower, and Donner's on the mic getting everybody riled up because nobody could do it any better than him, and especially when him and Steve Evans were together. I mean, he could get. Hitler couldn't do any better. I mean, it was that simple. They could get the crowd so riled up, so excited about whatever was going to happen, that they just left and thought they had the best time in the entire world and had to come back to see the next drag race. He was that good at what he did on the mic.
Donner was a promoter. He just didn't run the track. He was a promoter, and drag racing was just taking off, and that was just, I mean, he'd draw crowds like you couldn't believe, and it's just because of the show they put on. Not only, of course, the fuel cars, funny cars were running, but, somebody with a kite on a motorcycle jumping over 10 cars or something.
Yeah, Donor would have like
Evel Knievel.
Donor would have nights out there where women get in free. You know, and so
Fox hunt.
they call it the fox hunt, and the women are free, and then the guys, you know, here's where your girls are, come and pay to come in, and that's drew the guys. So he had all these wild stuff he did.
Well, you know, he's contributed a whole hell of a lot to the sport of drag racing. Let's see, there's been the fox hunts. There's been the lawsuits and injunctions in Seattle. How about a riot or two? A couple of rapes. Those went over well. Pillages, plunders, and then, of course, a knifing or two at Irwindale, but that was no big deal. You know, just a few of the little thrills have been brought to you by Bill Donor. That's drag racing's answer to Vlad the Impaler and Attila the Hun.
Well, if I had to try and put my finger on why I did well, I won't even say I succeeded, but why in the day my promotions were large, I found out through maybe just by accident that having huge markets that looked like they were the best in the United States weren't necessarily the best. And what that means is that Seattle, for example, the biggest crowds I ever got, and I would still stand by this, the biggest crowd anybody's ever seen for an independent drag race on the face of this or any other earth was in Seattle. I mean, my 64 funny cars in Seattle, my God, I had 8 lanes of traffic coming in for 24 hours straight. I mean, we couldn't turnstile them then, so we had to sell them tickets on the entrance road. So that took a little more time. But they were backed up for like 8 and 10 miles, and the state patrol was out there. And I'm talking about the night before. This was a night race the next night. And my God, it was something to see. I can't even tell you. Well, now I came to Orange County eventually, the crown jewel of my empire. And it had been broke 3 times by the time I got there, and yet it was a magnificent drag racing palace at the time. Location to this day will never be topped. Right in the middle of Southern California where 2 freeways intersected, right at the finish line. So, I mean, it went right over the top down there where the entrance road was. So, how was it? Well, it was tough. It was a lot tougher. I mean, in Southern California, there's a lot more things for people to do than there were in Seattle necessarily. When the sun came out in Seattle, we made sure we made hay.
You had to race for Bill Donor. He owns the entire West Coast at one time. He was in charge of Orange County, Fremont, Portland, and Seattle. If you didn't deal with Bill Donor, you didn't race. It was just that simple.
And he was the right guy at that time, too, because the funny car thing, it really hit, you know, and you had the promotable stars, the Jungle Gyms, the Ace, the King, and all that stuff. And he had a certain group of guys that he really concentrated on. And if you were one of Donor's guys, I mean, he'd put you on the map.
How can we talk about this jerk? He's virtually ruined Top Fuel racing on the West Coast. What else can I say?
Could say goodbye and, don't come back.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you completely. I mean, what else can you do? A guy starves to death down here in this California. You think he'd get a Top Fuel race from this jerk? No, he does. He made it awful tough on us. He's ruined more guys, more. He's done less for Top Fuel racing than anybody I know.
Well, you had it right straight from Gary Beck right there. Say bye, Bill.
You had to do things for him, so he'd do things for you. And it was always, and obviously, especially back then, you're a lower tier racer than, Perdome and Beetle and some of these other guys. But being local, I wanted to race every weekend if I could. And obviously, when they had a 64-car show, they took anybody that could breathe, that could start. They had 32 cars. They took almost everybody that was half decent. They got 16 cars, okay. Got to 8 cars. Well, sometimes you had to fight and claw to get into that type of a race. And I can remember it was always so funny because I'd try and call up Donor because I know a race is coming next month. Are you going to be able to use me? And you'd call, hey, Bill, Bill Donor there? Yeah. Oh, can I say who's calling? Gary Densham. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill must have stepped out. Call him next day. Bill Donor there? Yeah, who can I say is calling? Gary Densham. Oh, gee whiz. Bill must have stepped out. So after about 3 or 4 days, I'd get sick and tired of it. I'd call Bill Donor there? Yeah, who's calling? Don Perdome. Click. Hey, Snake, how's it going? Sorry, Bill, this is Densham. Am I in your race next week or not? And I could catch him every time. You'd think after a while the secretary would finally learn that I didn't sound like Don Perdome. But it worked every time. If I wanted to talk to him, that's all I had to say.
The things I did years ago, would I dare do some of them? Well, we might put a filter on some of them, certainly. But I intend to do some of them. So it's not only would I dare, I'm going to dare. And yeah, I'd like to, I think, and I go to the races now and the last couple years, and I'd put a lot of my promotions in there. I think they need to put a little life in there, and you know, they need to look at the thing more as a, you know, no matter what everybody else thinks, it's a show. That's what it is. It's a show. It's an entertainment, a form of entertainment. And as other forms get bigger and better, now when you look and you see these rock groups go out on tour, it's not just a bunch of guys standing on a stage singing. They've got backdrops and movies and things, and they're coming out of the audience, and it, you know, it's bigger and better than ever. Now, can I say the same thing about drag racing? Well, I don't think so. It's not more, you know, the racing's terrific. The racers are great. But, you know, they go back to the pits to get ready, and it's just, is there any real life there? I don't know.
So, you were match racing, I believe, Beetle at Seattle the night that they burned the tower down. You remember that?
It's possible, yeah. They did that a lot.
Seattle
did it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go to every one of those 64 funny car shows, and I mean, you remember going there, and we'd line up 64 cars on the racetrack and start all of them at one time with a jet going down between all of them doing burner pops, with Shrewsbury going down the return road the opposite direction doing wheel stands. And that was the start of 64 funny cars. And nothing but funny cars and jets and wheel standers ran till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And people would sit on the guardrail with their coolers and watch the cars go by. And there would be so many of them on the starting line. You'd start the car, you could not see the racetrack. And as you rolled forward, it was just like a wave. It would part, and you'd do the burnout. And you'd back up, and they'd close up again, and then just touch the car as you went forward. You know, I had a guy, you know, reach in one time, had a joint. Hey, you want a hit before you go? You know.
I think sometimes he over-promoted to the point it kind of lost control. And there's probably a price to pay for some of that. There was, you know, but boy, he could generate a crowd, and I still got a lot of respect for him. I wish he could have funneled that maybe at times in a little bit better, you know, way, but he'd put a crowd of people in. But sometimes once he got them there, then he'd lose control of them, and they really had some, you know, pretty serious incidents and just things just getting out of hand.
What would inspire a drag racing promoter to make a porno star his race queen?
Why, you know, people ask me, why did I bring, and I hesitate to call my race queen a porno star, why did I bring Linda Lovelace to Seattle for my Northwest National Open? Well, I was pretty full of myself in those days, and I kind of did it on a dare. I'd never seen the movie at that time. It was brand new. It wasn't like everybody, I mean, most everyone that was involved in the race had never seen the movie Deep Throat. Now it'd just be another movie almost, but in those days it broke the barrier. And a friend of mine ran into her, Linda Lovelace, at a party at the Playboy Mansion in Los Angeles, called me up laughing, and the next thing you knew, I was making arrangements to bring her up to Seattle. She wasn't really the race queen, but she was there, and yeah, she went down the racetrack right out the front of Wild Bill Shrewsbury's wheel standard, start the race. That all happened. The next year, incidentally, I was so beat up by my sponsors over doing that I brought this little boy in, Rodney Allen Rippey, that used to be on commercials for hamburger stuff, to sing God Bless America before the race. So that'll tell you how the pendulum swung.
Kind of funny, I walked through that door tonight and I looked out there and I said, I can't even believe this deal. I see all these superstars. I see Prudhomme, I see Beadle, I see McEwen and Lombardo, Paisano, and I said, oh man, this must be heaven. And Donor walks through the door and I said, oh, I blew this deal. So,
Bill Donor, I give credit in my early days to giving me a start. When I would go to the racetrack, I was basically called a leaker because my car leaked oil. It was Bill Donor that found a way to get me to racetracks. He not only had Orange County, but he had tracks all up and down the West Coast. I carried grease sweep for him just to get to the next race. But it was Donor that put a value in me. My car was so bad once, Donor said, on the PA, you ought to take your car fishing. In other words, turn it upside down and make a boat out of it. But he looked at an individual like me and he saw that I had a taste of P.T. Barnum. And he went after me, he built my name.
You know, when I look back, and I said this probably publicly really for the first time a year ago, not this last March, but the March before, when I went back to receive my award at the Drag Racing Hall of Fame in Florida. And I think my biggest regret in drag racing is that I got out too soon. I let some things that were involved in my personal life really take over. I think most everybody ends up doing that, but I did it. Maybe I was a little younger, didn't need to do exactly what I did, and I went to Mexico for 7 years to fish. And there was a lot of pressure. I had too many racetracks, too fast. I probably didn't have the infrastructure to make them all work without me having my hands wrapped around it all the time. But when you have 9 racetracks and you run 1,000 races in 1 year, honest to God, 1,000. We were running 4 and 5 nights a week places. And I mean, all the way from Seattle to Orange County, California, stops in San Francisco. It just, it beat me up real bad. And I was trying to go to every single weekend. I was going to one track to another. And all these races, for me anyhow, were life and death. I didn't have the financial backbone of the NHRA or Ford Motor Company. I was just an independent guy on the West Coast, and in a lot of ways, although every race I ran was an NHRA sanctioned race, they were kind of my enemy because they ran big races in my markets, and I had to slug it out like in Southern California. They opened with the Winter Nationals, closed with the World Finals, and in between I got to slug it out week in, week out with the most expensive racetrack in the whole United States. And nobody else was able to make it work, and so, yeah, so it just kind of beat me to death. But I should have stuck around longer, and I regret that.
But boy, he was a promoter, and he still is to this day. I don't think we've seen the last of him.